If you are new to this hobby, these speakers I'm going to talk about today should be the first speakers you buy. Or if you've been in the hobby and you're building like a zombie apocalypse fallout shelter, then you probably should buy this speaker too. These speakers. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the best deal in hi-fi still. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. I have over 740 videos, amps, DACs, turntables, headphones. Chances are there is something there for you. I also do this for a living, so it would mean the world to me if you subscribe. I get more products sent in and I get more sponsors, which means I can make more content when I have more subscribers. So thank you so much for watching, and please like this video. We are going to be talking about the Yamo S series. It's the 5-piece home theater series. It comes with the S803s, 5¼ inch woofer, 1-inch soft tone tweeter. The S801s, 4-inch woofer, 1-inch soft tone tweeter. And the center channel, 2 4-inch woofers, 1 soft tone tweeter. This whole set comes in at $147. To give some perspective, this set used to come in at over $400. To give some other perspective, the S803 5¼ inch woofer comes in at $149, $2 more than the whole set. So you're getting 5 speakers for $147. It's not all biscuits and gravy and glazed donuts though. They may not be the best speaker at the, well, they still are the best speaker at the price, because you have to consider that you're getting 5 speakers for the price. So these are the best speakers at the price. There are other speakers that are better than these speakers when you look at them individually. But I was saying, this set used to cost over $430. Individually, the S803s, the larger bookshelves, I think they used to come in around 200 plus. You can get them for $149 now. 803s, individually, if you buy them, $120 a pair. And I think if you buy the center independently, that's $120 too. Let's talk about some specs. We're going to roll through these specs pretty quickly because we have a few to get through. The 803, larger bookshelf, 1-inch soft tone tweeter with integrated waveguide. And I will say that these soundstage and image very well. It's a good waveguide they've got on there. 5-inch polyfiber woofer for punchy mid-range and bass. We'll get to that later. Front ported on the front. 57 hertz up to 26,000 hertz for their frequency response. A fairly decent sensitivity of 87 dB. 8 ohm nominal impedance, recommended amplifier power 80 watts. Comes in about 7 inches wide, about 14 inches high, and about 10 inches deep. 5-year warranty. Magnetic grills, heather gray grills. I like the white colorway. It comes in white, brown, or basically black. Now, let's talk about this real quick. This is a vinyl wrap, and it looks awesome right here, okay? If you get these speakers, don't mess around with them very much after you put them where they go, and don't go messing with any corners, because this vinyl wrap will peel up. To be fair, vinyl wraps peel up on other speakers too. So that is not something that just these speakers do. But they look good. They will look good. Just leave them alone. Don't move them around a bunch. Don't go rubbing on the edges. S801, 1-inch soft tone tweeter with integrated waveguide, 4-inch polyfiber woofer for punchy bass and mid-range. Bass reflex ported on the rear this time. And it has a keyhole mount, which is nice. Sensitivity 85 dB. Again, not terrible for a speaker this size. I've seen speakers go all the way down to 83 dB when they're small like this. Has an impedance of 8 ohms. Recommended amplifier 60 watts. I forgot to mention on the 803s, you may notice there's 2 sets of binding posts on the back. One is for an optional Atmos module that you would stick in the top here and then be able to hook up here on the back, which is pretty cool. Also, 2 keyhole mounts on the back. I was thinking about getting the Atmos modules, but the only ones that I can find come in around $200. So the Atmos modules are not nearly as plentiful as this home theater setup or the speakers being sold individually or in pairs. The Yamo S81 Sen. So there's also an S83 that has 5-inch woofers. This has dual 4-inch polyfiber woofers. for punchy bass and mid-range. 1-inch soft dome tweeter with the integrated waveguide. Frequency response 71, which is pretty low actually, and we'll talk about that later, up to 26,000 hertz. Sensitivity 86 dB, impedance 8 ohms. Recommended amplifier power 60 watts. It is basically 18 inches wide, 7¼ inches high, and 8 11/16 deep. The center channel. All right, let's talk about how they sound. I have had these running home theater duty in my living room for about the last week. I went from having the Q Acoustics 5020 as my front speakers, a RSL CS, I can't remember. It's the little RSL. I just did a video on them. That was running center channel, and then I had the 801s from Yamo running surround duties. I had the G horns from Schit running the center and the surround speakers. I think those are around 10 watts a piece into 8 ohms, 15 watts a piece into 4 ohms. I had the Fozzy Audio V3 running the front speakers. With my power supply, it's about 40 watts going into 8 ohms. So I didn't have a ton of power on these, and they don't need a ton of power. But let's talk sound. One of the things that these speakers all have in common is a really big bump around 100 hertz, maybe 150, maybe 80. Anyway, it's a big bump, and it provides a big thump. And that's why these speakers kind of sound really good, because they have a lot of fullness on the bottom. However, with that fullness, you're going to give up some mid-range detail and mid-range clarity. That is not as big of a problem on the 803s and the 801s. However, when we're talking about a center channel where dialogue clarity is key, it's not that great. Top end seems to kind of start to pop up around 4K and above. So this speaker is what people will call a V-shaped speaker. Bumped on the bottom, bumped on the top, scooped out in the mid-range. The scoop out in the mid-range is pretty, consistent, I guess you would say, whereas something like a Klipsch will have not as big of a bump on the bottom, and then a bit of a dip, and then a big rise around 2K, and that kind of goes down and then rise again. So these Yamos are definitely kind of a V curve. There's nothing wrong with that per se. But when you're watching movies with this center channel especially, there's a lot of clarity lost in the dialogue. Now, if you have a home theater receiver that has integrated EQ, then you can EQ most of that out. And what I would do personally, if I had a home theater receiver on this, I would bring up 1K, probably 3 dB. I would bring up 800 hertz, maybe 2 dB. Bring that kind of back to flat. I would leave the bass alone on the fronts and the surrounds, but on the center channel, I would also bring probably 100 hertz down 3 dB. And the reason is when you have bass boost on a speaker, oftentimes that's covering up mid-range detail. So if you bring the bass down, it's going to clean up the vocals even more. On the center, if you're getting this whole set, you may have an AV receiver, but you could also be getting this set just for a 2-channel system or a secondary 2-channel system. The mid-range trough is evident on both speakers, the 801s and the 803s. It's not nearly as big of a deal though, because generally speaking, I'm listening to music with these. If I'm in a home theater or TV situation, the vocals aren't really coming out of the right and the left anyway, unless you're running them with no center channel. So the mid-range cover-up to me isn't nearly as big of a deal on the 801s or the 803s. Frankly, it's going to make most recordings sound really good. If you're into singer-songwriter acoustic guitars, this probably isn't going to be the speaker that scratches your clarity itch. If you're new to the hobby though, this thing is going to sound awesome. Just bear in mind, you're gonna have some mid-range veiling with these speakers. Soundstage and imaging is awesome. The fun factor is awesome. For me though, I actually had to change out the center speaker just because I could not get the dialogue clarity that I needed to enjoy the movies. With that said though, I was using the Schit Sins, and the Schit Sin, man, that's a tongue twister, is kind of a multi-channel. So you take 2-channel PCM, you plug it into the Sin, and then it spits out 5 channels. You can control center level, you can control surround level, you can make it wider, you can make it narrower. A lot of things that you can do on that system, and it's really cool, but it doesn't have an EQ. And with an AVR receiver, you're going to be able to EQ the center speaker and get it better. It's not really usable on the Sin. It needs some major EQ. So what are my final thoughts? The home theater package is available for $147 from Amazon right now. Individually, you can buy the speakers from Amazon, or you can buy them individually from Crutchfield. This is not for an advanced listener unless it's in your zombie apocalypse fallout shelter to enjoy music after society has fallen. This is a set for someone that's building a home theater system if you have an EQ in your AVR receiver. This is a set if you're brand new to hi-fi and you want to have one main system and one system on your desk. This is a system that's going to be a significant step up from Bluetooth speakers or very inexpensive powered speakers, like something like an edifier. This is a speaker that can be driven off of most of the very affordable Class D amplifiers from Fozzy Audio, from IEMA, from Duke. This is a speaker that's a bit indulgent if you are after a linear flatline response, not your speaker at all. If you have an EQ, you may be able to bring up that mid-range a little bit, but I don't particularly mind the mid-range when I'm listening to music on these speakers, the 801s and the 803s. It's also going to cover up bad recordings. Most songs are going to sound great on these. They're versatile. You can hang them on the wall. I would not call these an audiophile speaker. I would call this a starter speaker. I would call this a speaker that you're going to put in your kid's room. I would call these surround speakers or height speakers. Frankly, if you get this system, you could use the 803s as surrounds and the 801s as height speakers. This is a set that can fill in some space in your home theater if you're trying to expand it and you're not new. Just bear in mind though, mid-range clarity is the thing that these speakers really lack. Also bass roll-off. Since there's a big boost around 100 Hertz, it falls off very quickly. So if you want a speaker with a smooth roll-off on the bottom end, this is not the one, because it goes up to 100 and drops off fairly quickly. But if you're in a home theater situation, chances are you're going to have a subwoofer anyway. You're going to have to play with it to get it just right, if you are, again, after that completely linear response. I don't think these speakers are meant for people like that. I think these speakers are meant for someone that wants to have a good time and is just getting into the hobby. As it is, if you can accept those limitations that these speakers have, $147 is absolute craziness when you think about what you are getting for that money. Are there better small speakers out there that are inexpensive? Yes, if you're after linearity or you're after a flat response. The Numi BS5s, flatter speaker, they come in around $100 though. The Sony SSCS5s are quite a bit better, but they come in, even on sale, around $125. The ELAC BS41s, also better, but again, they're coming in at $125 and they're a lot harder to drive. So if you have reasonable expectations, you can basically get two systems with these speakers for $147. You can add a Fozzy Audio TB10D for $60. You can add two of those. So again, you can have two setups for $260. Now you're going to have a source on those, but that's insanity. Great setup. I could legitimately use this in my living room, but I need a better center channel. I need something with a lot cleaner dialogue. And I don't have any EQ in there, so the center channel did not last long in my setup. The S series, while not perfect, represents something for the budding audiophile that no other company represents, and that's a huge value for your money. And to the non-cynical audiophile ear, these are going to sound great for most people. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/cheapaudioman every Sunday night. We have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook group. You can use the links in the description to buy the Yamo S series. One will be to Amazon. The others will be to Crutchfield. Both of those are affiliate links, which means if you click and you buy, I do get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more. So it's a great way to support the channel. You can also sign up for Amazon Music, Tidal, or Rune. Links in the description. You get a free trial period. Even if you quit, though, I get a couple of dollars. You can also use the thanks button. Buy me a cup of coffee. Put a tip in the tip jar, but don't feel compelled to tip me at all or buy me anything. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen maybe to your new Yamo S series for $147 and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.